The most advanced non-human language on Earth was never hidden. It was misheard.
Quite often, the question on my mind is, when are we going to understand whales?
For 200 years, we dismissed sperm whale clicks as sonar and noise. But in late 2025, a massive data leak from Project SETI revealed a pattern that the scientific community has been struggling to explain.
Researchers at Project SETI are using artificial intelligence to decode the clicks.
When researchers fed 15 million years of these clicks into a language AI model, the machine didn't return a sonar or sounds of the ocean. It returned a list of alphabets. If the ocean's loudest inhabitants were just hunting, why did the AI find a structure that perfectly mirrors the human phonetic alphabet? And if this is a language, what have they been saying all this time? The ocean's 15-million-year-old alphabet. For more than 2 centuries, scientists, sailors, and oceanographers alike believed sperm whale communication was nothing more than an elaborate form of biological sonar. Bright, rhythmic pulses that served a practical purpose below the waves. They called it the Morse code of the sea. A label meant to convey structure, but also meant to confine meaning to something mechanistic. Echoes, location pings, and social cues, nothing more. The idea that there could be speech-like language in these clicks was, by conventional wisdom, impossible. Sperm whales lack vocal cords like ours. They don't have the human speech apparatus, so how could they produce the defining elements of spoken language? But, in November 2025, something seismic shifted in the way we think about dolphin-like intelligence beneath the oceans. A multidisciplinary team of linguists and artificial intelligence researchers, led by Project SETI and academics from UC Berkeley, published a study that sent shockwaves through biology and linguistics alike. In their work, the team didn't just find communication. What they uncovered were elements strikingly analogous to vowels, the very building blocks that make human language possible. The discovery began, oddly enough, not with whales, but with elephants. UC Berkeley linguist Gasper Begusch, who leads the phonetic arm of the research, realized that human perception of time was distorting how we heard whale vocalizations. Whale hearts beat as slowly as 2 times per minute deep underwater. They live long lives, gestate for over a year, and move through sound at tempos vastly different from ours. What if their communication was not fast speech, but deliberate speech at a different rhythm? This insight came after a talk by elephant researchers who described how elephant responses can take minutes rather than seconds, suggesting that some animal minds operate on vastly different temporal frameworks. To test the idea, Begusch's team returned to thousands of coda recordings, the structured sequences of clicks that sperm whales use when interacting socially. These codas had been collected over years of fieldwork off the coast of Dominica by Project SETI's whale biologist, Shane Giro. Previous studies had cataloged these patterns primarily by the number and spacing of clicks. But with the help of AI, the team approached the data with a fresh perspective. They used custom machine learning models to sift through the noise and isolate codas that might contain deeper structure. Then they did something radical. They sped up the click sequences, compressed them to approximate the temporal scale of human speech, and removed long silences. What emerged wasn't random sonar. Patterns appeared, sustained tones and modulations that looked eerily like the formant structures found in human vowels. Specifically, they identified 2 primary spectral patterns, which researchers dubbed the A coda and the I coda, analogs of the vowel sounds A and I in human speech. These were not fleeting artifacts. They repeated across thousands of codas and across different individuals, suggesting intentional control, not chance. Even more striking was the discovery of diphthongs, sound patterns that glide from one vowel-like quality to another, much like the way human speech combines sounds such as the oi in boy. These patterns show that the whale vocal repertoire isn't binary or purely rhythmic. Instead, it displays gradient control, dynamic modulation, and what linguists might call phonetic complexity. Whales didn't just click. They shaped their clicks into a rich palette of acoustic colors. Imagine for a moment that structure is a prerequisite for meaning. In human languages, vowels offer flexibility. They allow a small set of phonemes to combine into an enormous variety of words, sentences, and ideas. Without vowels, human languages are rigid, flat, and limited. The presence of vowel-like spectral elements in sperm whale communication dramatically expands the theoretical expressive capacity of their vocal system. Whereas codas were once thought to be simple click patterns, they now resemble phonetic units capable of combinatorial variation. To be clear, the researchers did not claim that whales are speaking English, Spanish, Mandarin, or any human tongue. They did not assert that whales have directly translatable sentences. What they did show, empirically and without sensationalism, is that the foundational acoustic elements we associate with complex communication are present. These findings suggest that sperm whale communication is far more structured and nuanced than was ever imagined. It's a system where intentional sound production exists at multiple layers: rhythm, tempo, spectral shape, and combination patterns. This discovery doesn't just challenge a century of assumptions, it forces scientists to reconsider what language is. If humans defined language by certain acoustic signatures, and those signatures appear, albeit in a different temporal domain, in another species, then the gulf between human and non-human communication may be narrower than we thought. It lays the groundwork for asking not if whales are intelligent, but what forms that intelligence takes, and whether the deep sea has been echoing with structured communication while human ears heard only noise. And here's the paradox that locks in the suspense of this story. For 200 years, those rhythmic clicks seemed like whispers of nothing significant, until AI showed us the possibility that we've been deaf to complexity all along. So when we say whales have vowels and diphthongs, when we say voice-like acoustic structures once thought unique to humans have been found 3,000 feet below the surface, we're really asking a deeper question. What if the foundation of language isn't ours alone, cracking the code? Sperm whales are social creatures, living in complex pods that rely on acoustic signals to navigate, identify each other, and coordinate hunting. Among their most intriguing vocalizations are codas, structured sequences of clicks repeated in patterns unique to individuals, pods, and even entire clans. One of the most studied codas is the 1-1-3 sequence, a rhythmic pattern consisting of a single click, a pause, another click, and then 3 rapid clicks. For decades, researchers like Shanjiro meticulously recorded these codas off the coast of Dominica, cataloging thousands of patterns and noticing subtle variations across pods. Jiro's work showed that codas are not random. They are socially learned, stable, across time, and often used as acoustic markers to identify pod membership. These studies painted codas as sophisticated signals, but their exact nature remained a mystery, and scientists struggled to explain how such a structure could exist in a species lacking human-like vocal anatomy. For most of the 20th and 21st centuries, biology textbooks were unambiguous. Sperm whales cannot produce vowels. Unlike humans, they lack vocal folds, the vibrating membranes in the larynx that generate continuous tones. Instead, sperm whales rely on phonic lips, structures in their nasal passages that produce sharp, percussive clicks when air is forced through them. These clicks are primarily used for echolocation, mapping the environment and detecting prey, as well as simple social signaling. The conclusion was straightforward. Vowels require continuous tonal modulation, something phonic lips were thought incapable of producing. Consequently, any notion that sperm whales could generate speech-like elements was dismissed as impossible. This anatomical fact became a cornerstone of marine mammal science, effectively closing the case on any serious speculation about vowel-like communication in whales. Then, in a breakthrough that challenged long-held assumptions, AI researchers approached the problem from a completely new angle. They realized that human perception of sound had created a time bias. Human vocal folds vibrate extremely quickly, hundreds of times per second, producing the continuous tones we recognize as vowels. Whale phonic lips, however, move far more slowly. As a result, when humans listen to their clicks in real time, the nuanced structure is lost. The vocalizations seem percussive and discrete, devoid of tonal variation. By speeding up the recordings of these codas, the AI models revealed what human ears had never detected. The clicks contained recognizable spectral formants, the peaks in frequency that define vowels in human speech. This transformation showed that the acoustic material needed to produce structured, vowel-like sounds was present all along. We simply weren't hearing it at the right temporal scale. The AI analysis focused on isolating individual clicks within codas and identifying consistent frequency patterns. When the temporal scale was adjusted, these clicks revealed distinct vowel-like qualities. For example, a single dominant peak in the frequency spectrum corresponded to an A-like sound, while a double peak pattern resembled an I sound, similar to the E in the English word see. Moreover, in some sequences, the frequency peaks slid between two values, forming diphthongs, akin to the OI in coin. These findings were consistent across thousands of codas, demonstrating that the vocalizations were not random or accidental. Instead, they reflected intentional modulation of sound, an advanced level of acoustic control previously thought impossible in a species without vocal folds. This discovery reframed the understanding of codas entirely. What was once considered a mechanical sonar pulse became a structured acoustic signal with phonetic properties. By adjusting for temporal differences and analyzing spectral formants, AI revealed that the codas contained the fundamental building blocks of spoken language, such as vowels and diphthongs. This was not translation. It was evidence that sperm whales were capable of producing sounds with the same acoustic foundations that humans rely on for speech. The findings challenged the textbook consensus, proving that the limitation had been perceptual, not biological. Whales were always producing these structured sounds. We simply lacked the tools to perceive them correctly. The implications are profound. If whales can produce vowel-like sounds, then the foundation for combinatorial communication, creating complex signals from a small set of acoustic units, exists in their vocal repertoire. This raises questions about the cognitive sophistication required to control phonic lips, with such precision, and the social functions these sounds may serve. More importantly, it reframes how humans interpret animal communication. Rather than judging based on our anatomy and hearing, we must consider species-specific temporal and acoustic frameworks. The AI findings thus not only overturned the case-closed assumption about whale anatomy and vocal ability, but also opened the door to understanding codas as potential carriers of culture, social information, and even proto-linguistic structures. In short, the combination of long-term coda tracking by researchers like Shane Giro, the anatomical understanding of phonic lips, and the AI correction for temporal bias transformed our view of whale communication. What was once dismissed as sonar and random clicks now appears as structured, potentially meaningful sequences with the acoustic foundations of speech. Humanity had underestimated the whale's vocal capabilities for centuries, until artificial intelligence provided the tools to finally hear what had been there all along. How AI unlocked the whale's language. To understand how sperm whales could produce vowel-like sounds, researchers turned to one of the most advanced tools in artificial intelligence: transformer models, the same technology that powers GPT-4. Unlike conventional AI, these models don't need to understand meaning to detect patterns. Instead, they excel at recognizing structure within massive data sets, sequences, repetitions, and subtle variations invisible to the human ear. By feeding thousands of coda recordings into these models, scientists could detect consistent acoustic patterns that suggested intentional modulation, not random clicking. The AI's strength lay in its ability to analyze sequences at multiple scales, capturing both micro-level details and overarching patterns. The first breakthrough came with the microanalysis of codas. Researchers identified two primary vowel-like structures. The A coda exhibited a single, dominant frequency peak, a clean acoustic signature resembling the A sound in human speech. In contrast, the I coda produced two distinct peaks, much like the E in C. These micropatterns were not isolated anomalies. Across thousands of codas and multiple whales, the same frequency structures recurred, proving that the animals were intentionally shaping their clicks. This level of control suggested a remarkable degree of vocal precision, challenging long-held assumptions about the limitations of phonic lips. Even more astonishing was the discovery of diphthongs, where whales bend the acoustic signal, smoothly transitioning from one frequency peak to another. This creates sounds so similar to the oi in coin, adding complexity far beyond the simple A and I codas. Diphthongs show that whales are not producing rigid mechanical pulses. Instead, they modulate pitch dynamically, shaping their clicks in ways that resemble prosody in human language. The patterns of stress and intonation that convey emphasis and emotion. These bent sounds are subtle, yet consistent across individuals and pods, hinting at a sophisticated vocal repertoire that could carry nuanced social information. The next revelation came when researchers analyzed codas in context, not just in isolation. They discovered that whales employ a technique analogous to rubato in music, subtly stretching or compressing the timing of clicks for expressive effect. They also add what can be likened to ornamentation, brief variations, and embellishments that do not change the underlying pattern, but enrich the signal's texture. These features suggest that sperm whales don't just communicate with clicks, they convey emotion, intention, and social nuance. Each coda is a carefully shaped performance, tuned to both the physical environment and the social audience. This deep tech analysis also revealed that the whale's clicks are multidimensional. Beyond the simple frequency peaks, slight variations in timing, amplitude, and harmonic structure carry additional information. In some sequences, whales overlap clicks, producing harmonics that resemble vocal cords in miniature. These subtle shifts may encode identity, social status, or relational information within the pod. Transformer models were able to detect these multi-layered patterns, highlighting an unexpected richness in what was previously considered simple echolocation noise. The combination of micro-level evidence, diphthong transitions, and contextual modulation paints a picture of sperm whale communication as deliberate, expressive, and highly structured. The codas function like sentences built from acoustic phonemes, layered with temporal ornamentation that conveys emphasis and social cues. What AI revealed is that these whales are not merely signaling for navigation or identity. They are shaping their sounds with intent, sophistication, and variation. A level of acoustic artistry that mirrors fundamental principles of human speech and music. By examining these sequences with the precision of transformer models, scientists have uncovered a hidden complexity in whale codas that had remained invisible to human ears for centuries. The whale's clicks are no longer just patterns. They are dynamic, modulated, and expressive sounds, hinting at a rich system of communication beneath the waves. A language built on the same building blocks humans use, but tuned to a completely different temporal scale. Decoding. Chaos. Sperm whales are social animals, often gathering in pods of dozens, sometimes up to 50 individuals. Within these pods, communication is constant, rapid, and multi-layered. But imagine the challenge. How does one whale distinguish a single speaker in a chaotic sea of clicks, all overlapping in frequency and timing? This problem is eerily similar to a phenomenon in human auditory perception known as the cocktail party problem. At a crowded party, multiple conversations overlap, making it difficult to focus on a single voice. Now scale that up to 50 whales, each emitting complex codas, sometimes simultaneously. To human ears, it is an incomprehensible wall of sound. For decades, marine biologists struggled to understand how whales manage such acoustic complexity. Codas are not just simple sonar pings. They contain frequency peaks corresponding to vowel-like sounds, harmonics, and temporal modulations that may encode identity, social cues, and emotional information. But within a pod, clicks from different whales overlap, echo off the ocean's surface, and vary in amplitude. Distinguishing one whale's signal from the next is a task humans cannot reliably accomplish. Until recently, the underlying assumption was that whales might rely on directional hearing or relative positioning to parse individual voices. While partial localization may help, it could not explain the astonishing precision with which whales seem to track and respond to one another in real time. The breakthrough came with the application of AI-driven source separation algorithms, originally developed to isolate instruments in polyphonic music. These algorithms, sometimes referred to as blind source separation or independent component analysis, are capable of disentangling overlapping signals, identifying individual sound sources, and reconstructing them in isolation. Scientists adapted these techniques to sperm whale recordings, feeding hours of pod audio into models trained to detect consistent acoustic features, frequency peaks, and temporal patterns unique to each whale. The results were revolutionary. For the first time, researchers could listen to an individual whale's voice within a fully active pod. Once individual voices were isolated, a remarkable pattern emerged. Whales do not communicate sequentially. They do not wait for a turn as humans do in conversation. Instead, they overlap their clicks, producing simultaneous vocalizations that harmonize in frequency and rhythm. These overlapping patterns are not chaotic noise. They form structured acoustic layers, with each whale modulating its clicks to complement or contrast with others. The effect is akin to a musical ensemble, where multiple instruments play together to create harmonies and counterpoints. These harmonic overlaps suggest a high-speed data exchange, where multiple whales transmit information simultaneously, maximizing the efficiency of communication in dense social environments. Even more astonishing, AI analysis revealed that whales modulate their vowel-like sounds in signature ways unique to each individual. Just as humans recognize friends by voice timbre and inflection, whales appear to carry distinctive vocal fingerprints. The combination of frequency peaks, harmonic ratios, and temporal patterns allows pods to identify individuals reliably, even amidst dozens of overlapping clicks. This implies that codas may serve not just as general social signals, but as personal identifiers, effectively functioning as names. The high-speed, overlapping nature of these vocalizations is a form of communication far more sophisticated than previously imagined, where each whale can track multiple individuals and their interactions simultaneously. The discovery also sheds light on social dynamics and learning. Young whales are known to imitate adult codas, learning patterns through observation and repetition. With the ability to identify individual vocal signatures, AI has revealed that imitation is selective. Calves reproduce the codas of specific mentors or pod leaders, suggesting a structured learning environment. This adds a cultural dimension to whale communication. Codas are not genetically hardwired, but socially transmitted, evolving over generations. In dense pods, overlapping communication allows multiple whales to transmit lessons, warnings, or social updates simultaneously, a process humans can now finally observe and decode. The technical achievement here cannot be overstated. Isolating individual whale voices from a 50-whale pod requires precision beyond human capacity. With AI detecting differences in milliseconds, micro-frequency shifts, and subtle temporal variations. By applying source separation, researchers have effectively mapped a multi-channel communication network in real time, revealing a level of social complexity and acoustic sophistication previously unimagined. The whale pod functions almost like a distributed neural network, each individual contributing to a collective information stream while maintaining identifiable individuality through vocal signatures. This discovery transforms our understanding of whale communication. What once seemed like overlapping clicks are now recognized as structured, layered conversations where multiple whales can talk simultaneously, harmonize vowel-like sounds, and maintain individual identity. The ocean is not silent or chaotic. It is a highly organized network of information exchange. If AI can isolate and decode these signals, it opens the door to understanding not just what whales are saying, but how their complex social intelligence operates. We are beginning to hear, for the first time, the full orchestra of the deep. A hidden acoustic world. The discovery of vowel-like sounds and overlapping communication in sperm whales invites a larger question. What does this reveal about the architecture of whale speech and cognition? To answer this, researchers turn to source filter theory, a fundamental principle in human linguistics. This theory explains that speech is produced through two essential steps: a source, the raw sound generated by vibrating membranes like vocal folds in humans or phonic lips in whales, and a filter, the modification of that sound by the vocal tract, which shapes it into distinct phonemes. In humans, the vocal folds generate a continuous tone, which is then filtered by the mouth, tongue, and lips to produce the full spectrum of vowels and consonants. Applied to whales, the theory suggests that their clicks, the source, can be actively shaped by their nasal passages and air sacs, the filter, to produce the complex patterns detected by AI. In other words, the codas are not random clicks. They are deliberately filtered acoustic signals, structured and possibly combinatorial, forming the building blocks of a language system. If this framework holds, the implications are staggering. Consider that a sperm whale's brain is roughly 6 times larger than a human brain, with particularly expanded regions for auditory processing and social cognition. These animals are equipped not only to generate and shape complex sounds, but to perceive, interpret, and remember them in sophisticated ways. If whales have been using this vowel-based communication system for 15 million years, it dwarfs the timeline of human speech, which is thought to have emerged around 100,000 years ago. This raises profound questions about what whales might know, what social structures they maintain, and what information could be encoded in their codas. Humans have spent millennia developing language and writing, while whales may have been cultivating their own rich acoustic civilizations far beneath the ocean's surface. The cultural dimension of whale communication becomes even clearer when we examine regional dialects, particularly within the Dominica clan. Researchers have observed that sperm whales in the Caribbean produce codas markedly different from those in the Pacific. These differences are not genetic. Calves are not born with these codas. Instead, they learn them socially, from mothers, pod leaders, and peers. Young whales undergo an intensive period of acoustic learning, practicing and refining their clicks in a way that mirrors human children learning language. The Dominica clan, for example, consistently produces unique patterns of codas that are stable over decades, suggesting traditions that persist across generations. The presence of dialects implies more than just regional variation. It suggests cultural transmission. Codas may carry information about identity, rank, and social relationships, but they could also encode stories, lessons, or warnings. Some researchers speculate that codas could preserve historical events, migratory knowledge, or even problem-solving strategies. In essence, these whales may have acoustic schools, where younger members learn not just survival skills, but the linguistic nuances necessary to participate fully in pod life. The sophistication of overlapping communication, harmonized vowels, and identifiable vocal signatures further supports the idea that sperm whales possess a cultural ecosystem, with norms, conventions, and possibly even oral histories. This leads to an astonishing what-if scenario. If whales have an alphabet, distinct dialects, and a system for layering information through harmonized overlapping speech, what forms of knowledge might they hold? Could they have abstract concepts, social narratives, or environmental knowledge encoded in these codas? The fact that they live in pods with coordinated hunting strategies, long migrations, and complex social bonds suggests they do. The AI decoding of their vowel-like sounds has opened the door to these possibilities, hinting at a cognitive depth previously unimagined. Sperm whales may not merely be intelligent in the survival sense. They could have developed a symbolic acoustic culture that predates human language by millions of years. Interestingly, source filter theory also allows speculation about combinatorial communication. In humans, phonemes combine to form syllables, words, and sentences. In whales, the combination of a, I, and diphthong-like sounds, layered with timing variations, rubato, and ornamentation, could create an effectively infinite repertoire of codas, each carrying distinct meanings or social signals. The overlapping, high-speed nature of communication in large pods means that multiple layers of information can be transmitted simultaneously, a system humans struggle to replicate even with advanced technology. This parallel communication network could allow whales to maintain rich social dynamics and coordinate complex group behaviors while continuously exchanging knowledge across generations. The implications for human understanding of cognition are profound. For centuries, we have measured intelligence and social complexity through human-centric lenses, language, tools, and written records. Yet here is a species that may have been developing, maintaining, and transmitting culture entirely acoustically, without leaving any physical trace other than the fleeting sounds of their clicks. The combination of AI analysis, source filter theory, and cultural observation paints a picture of whales as acoustic civilization builders, with traditions, dialects, and social structures that may rival early human societies in complexity. In sum, the speculative synthesis connects anatomy, AI, and linguistics to propose a vision of sperm whales as long-standing, culturally rich communicators. Their vocalizations are shaped, filtered, and harmonized. Their dialects persist across generations. Their brains are enormous and tuned to social and acoustic cognition. And for 15 million years, they may have been developing a system of communication and culture that humans are only beginning to glimpse. A civilization hidden in the ocean depths, waiting for us to understand it. Clicking back for the first time. For centuries, humanity has scanned the skies, invested billions, and sent countless messages into the cosmos in the hope of hearing from extraterrestrial civilizations. We've built radio telescopes, launched satellites, and designed elaborate codes, all to detect a signal from somewhere beyond Earth. And yet, all this time, we've been sailing over a library of 15 million years of communication, hidden in plain sight beneath the ocean waves. Sperm whales, with their vast social networks, complex codas, and structured vowel-like sounds, have been transmitting information, traditions, and perhaps even stories. A civilization of sound that predates humanity by millions of years. The irony is striking. We sought answers in the stars while the most intricate language system on our own planet went unnoticed. The first step in truly understanding this underwater language was decoding the alphabet, the individual sounds, codas, and diphthongs that form the foundation of whale communication. But discovering the alphabet is only the beginning. The next frontier is the dictionary, translating these building blocks into coherent messages. What would the whales be saying if we could understand them? Are they issuing warnings, describing the world around them, recounting histories of their clans, or simply asserting, "I am here"? The implications are profound. A single, fully translated message could revolutionize our understanding of cognition, culture, and social complexity in non-human species. And now, Project SETI has launched the next stage: playback experiments. For the first time in history, humans will not only listen, but respond to whales using carefully structured signals. By mimicking the codas, vowels, and diphthongs decoded by AI, researchers hope to establish a two-way conversation. This is not merely scientific curiosity. It is the beginning of interspecies dialogue. Imagine clicking back into the ocean after millions of years of silence, sending a signal that whales might interpret as acknowledgement, curiosity, or even engagement. The stakes are extraordinary. If whales understand our signals, we could be entering a completely new era of communication, where humans and another species exchange ideas in real time. The ocean is waiting. Every coda, every overlapping click, every harmonic modulation carries potential meaning. We are on the cusp of discovering not only what whales are saying to each other, but whether they have been attempting to communicate with us as well. The vast pods, once inscrutable, may now be seen as interactive, intelligent networks, capable of social learning, cultural transmission, and structured dialogue. The question lingers: will the whales respond? And, if they do, what will they reveal about their 15-million-year-old civilization? The possibilities stretch from the profoundly scientific to the deeply philosophical, challenging our conception of intelligence and language itself. As this chapter of discovery unfolds, one thing is clear: we are no longer passive observers. With AI, careful field research, and the first playback experiments underway, humanity is taking the first steps toward understanding another, intelligent civilization that has existed beneath our waves for longer than humans have walked the earth. And while the dictionary is still being built, the alphabet is complete. The ocean isn't just deep. It's a living library, a stage, and now possibly a communicator. And finally, we are listening. So, what do you think these whales would say if we could understand them? Are they warning us about the oceans, sharing stories of their clans, or simply saying, "I am here"? Could we finally be on the verge of a conversation with a civilization that's been 15 million years in the making? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and tell us what you think their first sentence would be. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more interesting videos like this. Thanks for watching.